Welcome to the Justin Hamilton podcast. Today I am going to be finally getting around to reviewing Eddington, and I thought I'd throw in a little bit of Peacemaker to balance that out. Two things that I enjoyed immensely for very different reasons. And Eddington, maybe, I don't know, maybe one of my favorite movies of the year so far. So we will get to that shortly. Before we launch into it, I just need to give a shout out to our sponsors. Yes, the show has a sponsor, which is Wonder Pies. Wonder Pies are a company based in Melbourne. They make some of the most delicious and satisfying pastries that I've tasted in a long time. And as you can see, I'm not reading, I'm talking as someone who is actually a fan of what they create. And when they said they wanted to come on board for the rest of the year, I was pretty rapt. I was like, yeah, let's do this. I'm ready to go. Uh, for those of you who are carnivores, boo. Who's judging? But boo. They have a delicious range of pies and pasties and sausage rolls. They have all sorts of cakes. But if you're also a vegetarian like me, or even if you're a vegan, they have options that are just as delicious. So if you are in Victoria and you'd like to go and check out their cafes, or if you don't live in Victoria and you'd like to get online, well, you know what? You might live in Victoria and feel a little bit lazy and not want to have to find their cafes. Go to wonderpies.com.au and you can find like big boxes of pies and pasties, and you can get big apricot pies and all sorts of pastries that you can just buy in bulk and have ready at your disposal. Uh, you know what? I'll save any plugging until the end. I've been mentioning the show on the September 19th in Adelaide. And you know what? Actually, I'll just plug that now. September 19th at the Rhino Room. Adelaide Comedy's been celebrating 25 years since it all began. And I've been going back and helping out with some of these celebrations. And on the 19th, my old pal Mickey D and I will be doing some stand-up. Then I'll be hosting a live Justin Hamilton podcast that will have Mickey on board and also Charlie Hill Smith, who was the host of my very first gig. And then after the podcast, Charlie Hill Smith's band Truckers for Christ will be playing. So it's a big variety night. And if you would like to come along to that, head to adelaidecomedy.com for more details. Hey, if you're a Patreon subscriber, make sure that you don't buy any tickets and you just make sure that you DM me so I can put you on the door and make sure that you don't miss out. Yep, that's right. My Patreon subscribers get to come to any show that I'm producing for free. So if you're one of those people, make sure you're listening closely to this, because if you're in Adelaide, I'll sort you out. Okay, let's get into Eddington. I saw this movie a few weeks ago, and I had to kind of wait before I gave it any sort of review because, um, well, I didn't want to do it too early, and then you think, oh, well, why didn't you talk about this, closer to the date? We've got things on. People forget about things all the time, don't they? By the way, did you just notice that I looked down and I realized I had not pressed record on the Zoom? So guess what we're going to be doing? We are going to be using the Zoom audio. Apologies, these things happen. It's been a busy day. Anyway, I was too keen to talk to you about Eddington. That's the basic truth about it. So, look, Ari Aster makes films that can be considered masterpieces and the worst thing you've ever seen. And we could be talking about the same film. I've been a fan of all of his films. Hereditary, I think, is probably one of the most scared I've been sitting over on the lounge over there in daylight by myself. Tony Collette's performance in that is one for the ages. So I really love that. Midsummer, I thought was fantastic. One of the great endings. Beau is Afraid. I had an interesting experience in Beau is Afraid because I went to the cinema and there was me sitting kind of at the front of the middle section, and there were four people sitting behind me. And I was laughing a lot early on, and after a little bit, I realized that no one else no one else was laughing. And it was like, it made me, I don't know, just a little bit paranoid. And I still loved it, but it was a discombobulating kind of movie experience. So I have to see that again, but I did enjoy that a lot. Now with Eddington, man, I have. Even when I saw this film, when I was leaving the theater, and it was lots of other critics and reviewers and people like that, and as we walked out, I caught a lift with a couple of people, and they said to me, "Oh God, like that was really slow, and it just took so long to kind of dig in." And I was a bit like, I don't want to be that guy, but I found it pretty funny right from the start. And they just kind of looked at me as if I was being, I guess, one of those cinema fans. Oh, you didn't get it. But I think the humor is subtle within the broad context of what happens being maximalist. So I know that seems like a juxtaposition, but it is quite fascinating to watch. Joaquin Phoenix is a sheriff. He is the sheriff of the small town of Eddington, which is in New Mexico, which has a population that is barely over 2,600. And this is during COVID. So depending on whether you're one of those people who likes to go la 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 about COVID, or if you're comfortable with engaging with our history that is not that old, already you might be finding that you may be in or out on this premise. So anyway, the town is in lockdown. The mayor, Ted Garcia, who is played by Pedro Pascal. Out of all the things I've seen him in the last few months, and he's been in a lot, this has probably been my favorite performance of his. Um, he has the town in lockdown. He's trying to run business. He has like a weird history with Joaquin Phoenix's character Joe. He has a weird history with his wife. The wife is played by Emma Stone, who continuously makes films that are interesting and provocative. And she's, I always have to remember to mention her as being one of my favorite actors. I think she's always good. Anyway, Joe lives with his wife and his mother-in-law, who is played by Deirdre O'Connell, and basically this town's already gripped. It already has a lot of issues. It has a sense that it's looking for an excuse to explode. And basically, what happens is we see a man who is muttering to himself, who wanders into town, and he's homeless, and he seems to have a lot of issues, and he's kind of the key in my mind to understanding or interpreting this film, because he gets into town, he turns up to where the mayor is trying to, in his pub, run business. He calls the sheriff over. The sheriff, he doesn't want to wear masks because he thinks COVID's not here. Why are we doing this? Uh, the mayor's trying to get everyone to wear masks while keeping them in lockdown. Uh, the sheriff can't even really deal with this homeless man because he's just, kind of physically incapable and a little bit useless. And already we can see the dynamics of our main players. But the story really, really kicks into high gear where at the local grocery store, uh, Sheriff Joe defends an older local man who's being told to leave the supermarket because he's not wearing a mask. And um, you know, this guy says he can't breathe in the mask, and no one in Eddington seems to have even gotten COVID. And from here, uh, Joe is kind of fired up. Joe is ready to be a man of action, and he decides that in the local elections he's going to run for mayor. And you know, basically, this is a story about this uh, the way people can be corrupted by misinformation. It's about people who can wear their virtue as a badge of honor without really taking into account the empathy of one-on-one experiences or the fact that just because you're right about some things, it doesn't mean you're right about everything. There's a pretty sharp and incisive piece of satire with a young girl who, with a bunch of her friends, have seen what's happened with George Floyd, and they decide to march through Eddington about Black lives, about land being taken away from the Native Americans, and uh, and then there's two young boys who find that girl hot, who decide they'll take up the cause, and now and now they're sprouting that kind of stuff. They're it's I think what's really fascinating about this film, I don't want to give anything away, but I think some people find it to be nihilistic. I think some people find it to be too cynical for their palate. And I think the other part is that while people are being seduced by conspiracy theories or, trying to uh, understand what they believe and then articulate it in ways that other people can understand, and then find that their arguments at times don't really stand up to scrutiny. Uh, and I've seen some critics and I've spoken to some people who find that it doesn't really have anything to say. All it's pretty much saying is that everyone is to blame, and who's to blame? Well, there's no one to blame. Everyone's to blame. And I think the homeless man is the key to interpreting the film, because from my perspective, everyone's talking about the issues. Everyone's worried. Everyone's afraid. Everyone has real fears that they don't really feel comfortable in embracing. And they all have their ideas of what they need to stand up for, their belief systems that they need to make impregnable. And here's someone who needs help right in front of all of them. And it will not come as a shock, and it does not probably uh, give away anything, but he's ignored. And so, it is a little bit cynical in the sense that it is not afraid to spread uh, the the targets at what Ariaster is talking about and trying to satirize. But also, I think he's correct. I think it's a real really funny movie that gets bigger and crazier and weirder the further it goes. And in the end, I think the movie ends up in, well, it ends up here. It ends up in the real world in a way. And the victims that are having to do with things along the way, and who some don't really uh, have much of a platform to stand on. There are people who take advantage of all of these things. We've seen terrible people in the real world who love to see something's going horribly wrong, and so they think, yep, I can take advantage of this. And we see this. We see people taking advantage of situations naively. Like, they think they're kind of doing the right thing, but they're not really on top of it. I think this is a really funny movie. I don't think it's obviously funny. Like, if you think or you find Sheriff Joe driving around with signs written all over his car, and he uses the wrong your instead of YOU apostrophe RE, he's using YOUR. If you find little things like that funny in the depth of an image, then you'll find the rest of it funny. Well, I know that doesn't sound like the biggest joke in the world, but that's what I mean about the specificity of all the things that are going on in this film. Um, I laughed a lot, and I thought the ending was outrageously funny. And I think it's one of Joaquin Phoenix's best performances. I loved Pedro Pascal in this. Um, there's Emma Stone's always great. There is someone in the film that I didn't know was in the film, and when they popped up, I thought it was a beautiful piece of casting by taking this person that we kind of have an idea about and weaponizing certain attributes against them, or to at least make their character really pop in ways that wouldn't with another actor. So anyway, Eddington is one of my favorite movies of the year, and I don't know if it'll be one of yours, but maybe it will. I reckon roll the dice. Go and see it on the big screen. It's a big screen film, kind of gets some Coen Brothers energy towards the end. So yeah, sometimes you got to roll the dice, right? And I'd love it if you gave that film a shot. Anyway, Eddington. I won't talk too long about Peacemaker, but it was nice to have it back. This is now definitively a part of the new DCU. I thoroughly enjoyed that. James Gunn just kind of retconned the end of Peacemaker season one by taking out some characters who belong to the previous DCU and added some new ones who belong to the new revamped version. And I'm sure if you're a little bit newer to comics, this might be annoying, or it might be blasphemous, or it might be something that gets you really annoyed. But I've read comics for a long time, and they're constantly revamping their history and reorganizing things. Like, the Justice League of America always had Wonder Woman in it until they decades later decided she wasn't in it, and they replaced her with Black Canary. And Black Canary was from another world, and blah, 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 blah. So, anyway, I found this to be a very comic book way of dealing with things, and I like that. I like that James Gunn lent into the madness and took a roll of the dice. Uh, we see this new season where some of our favorite characters are having a tough time after the events of season one. They're trying to find their way. And John Cena, who's just perfect for this role as Christopher Smith, is feeling kind of cast out, and he's lost his father, and everything is feeling, you know, like it's just a bit of a struggle. And he's an idealistic character. He wants to fit in somewhere, and there's kind of nowhere for him to go. And because his team has been disbanded, uh, it's like he doesn't even quite have that family to get back to. Then he discovers that he has an ability to go into this room that is like a nexus of many universes. And when he goes in there, it's this his secret quantum dimension, where he keeps his peacemaker gear. He suddenly finds himself in a world that kind of looks familiar, but is different. And look, I've been a little bit sick of multiversal stories, but mainly because I think it was a trend that people didn't really understand. Like they didn't like the thing that Everything Everywhere All at Once did really well was it understood the emotional stakes of having all of these things occur in all these different dimensions. And I think that's where Marvel really, crapped the bed. They didn't really ground it in anything emotional to really give a shit about. This is bonkers as Peacemaker is, and it grounds it in something that is important to our main character, and I think will be interesting to see how he comes to terms with it. Look, it still has the over-the-top violence. There is an orgy, like I like that James Gunn is essentially saying, "Hey, this new DCU, there's superhero movies, and then there's the cartoons, and there's Peacemaker, which is kind of R-rated, and there's all these different types of genres within this universe." But there was a part of me when I was looking at this orgy with a lot of wangs. There's a lot of penises on show, and uh, women and men, and women and women, and men on men. And I was just thinking, man, I really hope some people's parents have made sure that their, you know, kids are the right age to check that out. But guess what? Not my kids, not my problem. Anyway, uh, that felt hilariously gratuitous to me, but I don't know, it kind of made me laugh as well that they did that. Um, some of the other storylines for the moment, it's the first episode back, they're getting into gear. They're, starting to kind of find where they're going to take that. The Harcourt story where, someone needs to get into a fight to feel something, and it's a woman who needs to get into a fight to feel something. That doesn't really feel that interesting to me, but I do like Jennifer Holland, and I do like that character. So I have complete faith in James Gunn in that. I just he's come through with most of the things I've watched, like even the worst things I've enjoyed. So even though that storyline's not that interesting to me at the moment, and even though I don't really give a shit about the multiverse and I'm quite over it, I, I think he has a style. I think he has a taste. I think he commits, and I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm currently reading the Tom King. I can't think of the artist's name, so I apologize for that. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and that's supposedly what the movie's going to be based on, and I'm loving it. I reckon I'm kind of over superhero comics, to be honest, and have been for quite a while. But this has been really good, and if they're turning this into a movie with Millie Alcock, I'm pretty pumped for that. So, anyway, Peacemaker dropping every Friday on HBO Max here in Australia, and why not? I'll give it a go. I enjoyed the first one. I enjoyed Creature Commandos. Not really an animated guy, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Superman, so I'm ready to see where that will take us. All right, that's enough out of me. Sorry about the audio quality. I've been first day back at the Chase. I've got to go and do another gig, and I thought I'll record this in the middle. And something was going to give, and it was the bit where you press record on the H4n Zoom. But there you go. Uh, all right. Remember the gig on the September the 19th in Adelaide at the Rhino Room. Uh, I've got a Substack. I've got Patreon. If you want to check out all of that stuff, I've revamped my website with the work of author Garth Jones, who does the Pass the Amel segment on this podcast and was on an episode not that long ago. He's done a really good job. So if you need to find any more details, go to justinhamilton.com.au. You'll find social links. You'll find writing, if that's the stuff that you like that I do. If you prefer more audio, if you like video, you'll find the YouTube links. So we're slowly building uh, all of this over here. So that's where you can find most of my stuff. All right. Uh, hey, thanks for tuning in. If you've watched Eddington or you've watched Peacemaker, like share your thoughts. I'd love to know what you thought of it as well. All right. Take care. Until then.